Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's training industry webinar, Unlock Learning Impact Through Multi-Sensory Immersive Experiences. So I'm Liz Spade, the Events Marketing Specialist here at Training Industry, and I'm thrilled to have you with us here today. Before we get started, though, I would like to quickly go over a few housekeeping items to help you interact with our speaker and get the most out of today's program. So I appreciate everyone who's already done it. So if you haven't already done so, open those chat windows and let us know where you're joining us from. Today is a beautiful sunny day here in Raleigh, and it's actually 70 degrees. So I am very envious, wish I was outside, and I hope the weather is the same for you all. While you're doing this, you can feel free to use the chat window to interact with our speaker with any comments as well. And as for questions, please plug those questions in the Q&A panel of your toolbar below. We have an amazing set of speakers who will be addressing those questions at the end of the session during our dedicated Q&A time, but feel free to plug those questions throughout. We would also love to hear about what you've learned from today's session on social media, so please follow EI and hashtag TI webinars as you share your favorite takeaways with your colleagues. And when this webinar ends, you should receive a short evaluation survey. We always welcome your feedback on things like the content, speakers, topics, or anything else you would like to share with us, so be sure to complete that survey after the event. And as always, today's webinar will be recorded and archived on trainingindustry.com, and you will receive a follow-up email from us that will include the link to the on-demand program for you to share with your team. If you've attended one of our programs in the past, thank you so much for joining us again. And if this is your first webinar with us, welcome. At Training Industry, we offer dozens of webinars with subjects ranging from AI, analytics, to onboarding, upskilling, and reskilling. We cover about every topic relevant to leaders of training organizations around the globe. And now to get started, let me introduce you to one of our speakers who will then kick off the rest of the panelists. Gautam is a strategic account leader with 22 plus years of experience in e-learning, client engagement, and immersive training delivery. And at MPS Interactive, he drives high impact and learning initiatives for global clients. So with that, Gautam, take it away.
Thank you so much, Liz. Thanks for the kind introductions. Almost felt like an appraisal for me. So thanks for building that confidence. And hello and a warm welcome to all of you who have joined today's session. We are really thrilled to have you as part of the session because this is a topic which is very close to our hearts. Really want to share some experiences that we've built and how immersive sensory rich learning can or is driving organization behavioral transformations across various organizations. It's no more those flashy or jazzy inputs only, but it's about how real world use cases are attached to learning objectives and learning outcomes or business outcomes. As part of the session, we would like to keep it as practical as possible. And that's where we'll focus on the why, what, and how of multi-sensory immersive learning solutions are impacting the world and the learning domain. And we intend to do that by unpacking some real use cases. I have a beautiful panel that I will be introducing you in a while, in a short while, and we'll be talking about some of their experience around the adoption journeys, the measurable impact. And by the end of the session, we hope that you are able to look in the possibilities of probably where to get started, how to expand it further, and how to apply it to some specific use cases. Without further ado, I will move to some initial slides of introducing ourselves. We are part of the MPS group, and our brand name stands by EI, which stands for Emotionally Intelligent, whereby our learning experiences are catered towards making the learner more emotionally attached to the learning. We are a truly global organization spread across the geography, as you can see on the various maps, but it's a true partnership that we believe in, a customer-centric approach, worked with 700 plus customers, been in the industry for more than 4 decades, working across domains. And if I could take some pride in saying that we've been topping the charts in some of the Learning Globe Awards, but again, not only our contribution, it's a collaboration between us and some of our key customer client partners. A workforce around 3,000 plus team members, so that gives us a lot of strength. Some of the housekeeping items which Liz has already touched upon, but yeah, no harm in sharing emojis and some questions or clarification. We want to keep you as engaged, as aligned, and as possible entertained at the same time. So please do keep us intact. We'll try to make it as interactive through polls and chats as we go along. Now, let me introduce you to our beautiful and most creative panel, and starting by Emmy Earthman. She is a senior training manager at Regeneron Pharmaceuticals. She heads the Environmental Health and Safety Division. It's been a beautiful experience working with Emmy as a team. She's a catalyst for behavioral change. She doesn't just believe in designing training, something which is true to our agenda today and the topic that we're covering, but she choreographs emotional journey experiences, driving safer and smarter performance for Regeneron. But she comes with a plethora of experience, over 2 decades of experience across life sciences, healthcare, financial services, and background in marketing, which adds to a lot of more richer experience. Her prior experience has been with Capital One, MGH, Life Sciences, and UBM. And Amy is going to add a lot of value in terms of, from the panel perspective, from the recent adoption that she has done from the immersive multisensory solutions that she's implemented for our team and partnered with us. So welcome, Amy, and look forward to having a discussion with you.
Hi, everybody.
And also, as part of the esteemed panel, we have Michael Bladner. He's the head of Zurich Global Commercial Insurance Academy. He's a truly global leader in with every aspect because he builds experiences and excellence across borders and domains. Literally, he leads a team of more than 6,500 professionals, training them across 30 plus countries on various topics like sales, underwriting, and services, and insurance being at times a dry topic or not so tangible topic, but he's still able to drive immersive experiences. Plus he has been a driver in terms of various award-winning initiatives across the industry. With more than 3 decades of experience in the domain, he brings a lot of value in terms of how global content can be localized for certain geographies, how different audiences interact and behave in certain situations, and how immersive solutions can really add value case to case basis. But again, Michael, great to have you as part of the panel, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, and greetings from Zurich, Switzerland.
Thank you, Michael. And last but not the least, my dear friend Henrique, he heads our immersive learning solutions at EI based out of Switzerland. He's purely, if I have to label him, he's a maestro of sensory magic and spatial storytelling. Been part of the industry for more than 2 decades, leading our immersive solution and various AI technologies at EI. And he's going to be demoing some of the real use cases and attaching some of the behavioral impacts to the same. Hi, Enrique, and welcome you to the session as well.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Gautam.
So moving ahead, something that I said as part of the introduction, so we'll be setting the context of how multisensory immersive solutions are really impacting, and especially in comparison to traditional ways of learning, making it more real world, use case basis, and how we can really drive a lot of value out of it by immersing the learners. We'll be deep diving into panel discussion, whereby as I said, we're going to talk about the adoption, how early, when, and where and why we can do the adoption. What are the specific use cases, some of the challenges, some of the outcomes, and the behavioral impact of the same. So we're going to be talking all that. And then we're going to lead into some examples and demos, followed by Q&A and takeaways. Again, during this entire context and the agenda, we'll be having some interactive polls and chat open for you. To start the session, let me start with a poll. And primarily, when you are, let's assume an imaginary situation when you're in a training simulation, an alarm goes off, which is the sensory element or what you notice the first? That's something that we would love to know in terms of getting started, and what is your instinctive reaction to some of these elements?
And I'll give everybody about 5 to 7 more seconds.
So blaring silence seems to be the winning thread and a great choice as well. Yeah, because I think a lot of us have the sound or sensory organ at times the highest because we would like to listen. And this is a scenario that fits the best, but yes, followed closely by the flashing lights. So that really sets the context as we move ahead. So some of the experience that we want to talk about and how immersive sensory solutions really bring things to life. We're talking about experiences of bringing real world use cases which can make you act, think, and feel. It's getting involved to the core and not just passing by a training, but actually involving while you're implementing those things, getting emotionally attached and moving ahead with those. Especially attached to these, some of the studies that we've done recently and noted some of the advantages as well, where we've seen that as for the market and some of the case studies that have come in the market, there's been an adoption of mixed reality or immersive multisensory solutions. About 75 million odd people across the US using it since 2024. There's been an increase, a surge of increase rather, of use of VR. I know there were initially challenges, especially with the device compatibility, etc. But with a lot of other um, platforms being open to present VR, not just on a device, but also on web, etc., has increased the usage. And the retention, that's a really high retention to have with 75% retention because you are actually implementing some real life use cases. And that's where the learning objectives and the business outcomes are derived or planned accordingly. And then there is obviously our buzzword right now or the catchword, which is AI, which is again helping us drive some of these VR simulations, but to make it personalized based on the learner competence or the organizational objective. Why multisensory matters, and we will obviously deep dive into some of the use cases in the next slides, but we've seen that it has increased the cognitive engagement, emotional connect, and real world practice, whereby the learners are getting into more role play mode, of applying avatars or real life situations and emulating those to get the business outcome, which is about faster onboarding, time to competence, higher learner confidence and scalable as well, which was initial challenge, but again, immersive solutions have gone through various phases, and we see that the scalability and personalized part of the training has really evolved over a period of time. And the landscape has a lot many options, right from a 360 video to a mixed reality, augmented reality. We have digital twins, spatial learning, metaverse, and gamification chatbots. So a lot of options to it, but the core always remains the design behind it and attaching it to the learning and the business objectives. With that, we'll quickly talk about some of the use cases, and I would like to invite Enrique, based on your current experiences of implementing some of these use cases across fire safety, healthcare, insurance, retail, not limited to these, but obviously some of these highlighted if you want to just throw some light on these.
Yeah, just to quickly start the session around these use cases. Thanks, Gautam. Obviously, the topics that we have here, the industries, it's not just limited to these ones, but here are a couple of use cases also in relation to Michael and Amy who are with us today, yeah, from the pharma industry and from the insurance business. Just when starting on the left top corner, when we speak about safety trainings, when you actually don't have to really go through a document, read a document or do a web-based training, watch just a video about a certain topic, when you actually get to do and experience the situation that is happening. And you are able now with the technology that we have today to simulate these senses, yeah, while you are doing a training. And this becomes much more emotionally also binding for the people who are doing it, for the learners, but to really transform these learning simulations into experiences. And I always like to speak about experiences. Yeah. Also, when we look at the pharma and healthcare section, Amy, we had the chance to work on the project together right now around the topic of ergonomics and also in the lab space. where we were able to, recreate certain situations in your work environment, for a VR web browser solution in which the learners get to interact with these situations and learn more about it. It's obviously very diverse topics that we can cover. It's a huge topic, as Gautam was mentioning before, but also in the insurance sector. Michael and we spoke earlier this year also about the engineers that they have in the organization, which have to go on site and learn, study, certain infrastructures, buildings, and do the risk assessment accordingly. You could use digital solutions like a immersive VR solution with a headset, for instance, where someone would walk through a virtual simulation and, with possibilities like we have nowadays, now already a little bit technical, but like redirected walking, that you are able to physically walk around the space, limited space, but in a digital format, much bigger, like a big construction site or something comparable to that, which is, very, very good for us, and very, very motivating for us who are designing these types of training. And also at the bottom right corner, the retail sales, conversations also applicable to insurance services, where you get to train soft skills in this type of environments, where you get to speak to AI-driven avatars, whether it is by using a VR headset or with a web-based AI solution, where you get really to, practice these situations, which you don't usually get to practice with a real person, or at least you can't repeat it that often and improve yourself, seeing also the statistics that come out of it. But obviously on the next slide, Gautam, if you can just move forward here quickly, just some visual examples of what we just spoke about, or what I just spoke about, these industries, where on the left top corner for the fire safety, a short video that we will show then later on during this session today. Obviously a little bit more hardware heavy solution, but still a nice use case that is easy to explain to people, especially when it comes to multisensory learning here, with a fire extinguisher which is being used. On the right side for the pharma sector, we have actually a little screenshot of the training that we did together with Amy, in which you get to assess how someone is working in the lab, if she, in this case here, is having the right posture all around ergonomics. On the right side, from a different perspective as well, on the right screenshot there, that you get to do also, which is very nice with these types of trainings, change perspectives, not only experience it from the third person, but also from the first person. And when you get to do a difficult or dangerous task, for instance, in the lab, like we see here, how you should react accordingly, driven by audio, driven by even nowadays possible by smells that you could, reproduce with new devices that are out in the market. And on the left bottom corner, more like an industry risk assessment situation, where you would be in a certain space, let's say like, I don't know, about 50 square feet. Around that, I think, not too much space to walk around, but actually by moving in the digital space, you are looking at this bigger side here, this hangar for, this train logistics part of what the person is seeing in the VR headset. Also, we have a little video to show you later on through today's session. And on the right bottom corner, obviously the conversational AI role play. Also, Michael already had some experiences with that. Michael has been doing a POC within Zurich Insurance, which, as I mentioned before, could be done through a VR or mixed reality headset or through the web browser. Really depends on what the goal is. And just some impressions here to start off the session.
Absolutely, Enrique. And as Enrique said, that while we're showing some of these very obvious examples or upfront examples which are intuitive, some are heavy on headsets, some are lighter, but it's not limited to these industries alone. It can, or these industries with same examples, it could be expanded further, which we're going to discuss in a while. Before I move into a bigger discussion with Michael, Demi, and Enrique, just a quick question. If you could add one new sense to your current training programs, I'm sure you've been part of some of the training programs, what would it be? If you would like to share your thoughts in the chat, that would be great addition as we move around discussing some of these sensory examples. And now let me just open it up for the panel discussion. Um, and this is where I think we'll get a lot of clarity in terms of the adoption, in terms of how we plan and intend to do that. And let me probably bring you, Emmy, because you've been the latest addition in terms of implementing some of these immersive training programs. So if you could share and throw some light around what probably made you understand the potential of immersive learning, which made you implement, and how do you see it worth investing as you have already gone through a cycle of implementing it, and if you would like to also throw some light in terms of some specific challenges, what were you looking forward to in terms of solving as a business or a learning objective, and how do you see this opportunity going for you?
Sorry. So as Gautam mentioned, I work in health and safety, and over the last 5 years at our company, we've seen significant growth in our workforce and as well as our geography. So we are no longer in a position, our team, to actually do a lot of the one-on-one or facilitate those trainings. So we had to think outside the box a little bit, because we are in essence competing with our colleagues who are also doing web-based trainings. So the space has become a little bit crowded. So when we when I first met with Enrique, the challenge was, how do we really engage the end user and provide an experience so that we can be there without being there, which is what lent itself so beautifully to the ergonomics program, because it allows people to set up their workspace and actually be able to see what the danger signs are, prevent those injuries, reduce those risks, but do it in a way that it almost is like we are there. So and it allows our team to actually save a lot of time rather than doing the exponential one-on-one ergonomic assessments. It allows them to actually free up their time to do other things.
That's wonderful to know, Amy, and really nice to know that it's coming along really well, and it's meeting your business and learning objectives as well. But since the time you've implemented though, Amy, I mean, just a follow-up question, but how do you see the learners learner engagement and as you said, the confidence and engagement and retention probably? How is it coming along, and is it really getting aligned to your original vision?
It definitely is. So we had the opportunity to launch it about a month ago, when we had a big office move from one of our locations in the United States to another area of the state. And so we had about 500 people who are now going into a different workspace with different workstations. And so we sent out the training as a resource for them, just to acclimate themselves to how they should set up their workspace. One, I got a lot of comments directly to me from people who said, it was a great experience. They were really engaged, which was, great to hear. But also we saw a reduction in the number of one-on-one live in-person sessions that we usually would see through an office move. So, I think as of right now, we've only had 3 out of 500 people, which is pretty astounding.
Wow, that's a number to really catch on to. But
I mean,
great to
that's
know
why, we
Yes, sorry.
invested a lot of time while we were scripting, Amy,
Yes.
right, for the people to understand it, as quick as possible, the new approach for them for this type of training. And also for multiple countries, 5 languages overall. Yeah,
5
also
languages
Japanese
overall.
for the,
Yeah, it really is. And we're very excited to be launching it globally, because there are also, ergonomics is one of those things. It's the best practices are out there. But that having that localization from country to country and making sure that it's speaking to people was also very important. So the 500 folks who moved were our first launch, but we're going to be going wider very soon. So very exciting.
Really, and that's an interesting topic, Emmy. Enrique, you brought about localization. So if I could just spend a minute on that, was it an easy implementation? Because there's always a bit of a concern in terms of how such immersive products can be localized or seamlessly transform into different geographies. So was that, Enrique, Emmy, a simple, easy process or a bit complex?
from a technical standpoint, it's, nowadays a simple process. You get used to it, also obviously doing these types of projects for multiple countries. Yeah. So you just have to set up the single source code that you have for a project like this, for a web-based solution like this one, for instance. And then you basically include the translations that you get. And obviously test it accordingly, and let it be proofread by people who are aware of the language. So it's a very efficient process and not too time consuming. Yeah.
Oh, that's great to know. That's a good evolution that we have seen overall. And Enrique, staying on the topic, I mean, since obviously working closely with Amy, early adoption, what's your take on working with some similar organizations or your overall use cases across different industries? Why should we care about multisensory learning, and especially for organizations which are still thinking and contemplating to go for it? If you could share any concise use case of why it matters, that would really throw some light.
I think it's, for me, in our opinion, it's a vision that we have in the company in general. I said the keyword in the beginning, the experience that we design. So with this type of technologies, you are able to design these experiences that become memorable to people. And I think that most of the things that we learn in life that we can, confidently apply is really by actually doing it, not just reading it from the paper or from a document, but really doing it, in a certain simulation or scenario. And especially also when you look at a maintenance scenario. Yeah. I mean, instead just, of if you are reading a manual or, going through a document about the machine that you are working on, you could actually, in a VR headset, look at the machine now in this case, in a maintenance scenario, and actually perform the tasks on it and simulate especially what could go wrong. Because in the real life situations, it's difficult to simulate something dangerous going wrong. So this is where I think also, risky situations, whether it's when dealing with people and when speaking to someone, or if in an environment that we were speaking about for in a lab, for instance, also it's just something that you can showcase what could go wrong if you do something wrong, and really for the person to understand how a certain situation needs to be handled. Yeah. And it's all about the situation becoming memorable. But I think, with these types of experiences, that's an assumption that we have is that people also understand how it benefits to them in their daily business lives.
Yep.
Because it gets clear to them, even if it's a web-based solution that you do through the browser, by taking certain perspectives, first-person views, and see what's happening. So just to summarize why to care about it, the keyword is experience that we learn from in our daily lives.
So some real world application which aligns to your business and learning objectives as a whole.
Exactly.
Sure. That really makes a lot of sense. And I think with that, let me just move to the next part of the poll. So a quick poll before we move further with the discussion. This is about the sales pitch VR simulation. Which elements or what elements would make it feel more relevant or real? Is it about seeing the client facial expressions, hearing the room background again, noise, sound, feeling the handshake, the touch, smelling the coffee brewing, or anything else that you believe?
I'll give everybody about 10 more seconds.
Client facial expressions is what really leads. So I think one of the examples that Enrique was talking about earlier, use cases around the retail, where you could interact with a possible customer and look at their expressions. I think those are some of these sensory items that we've really seen have evolved, which add a lot of value in terms of the experience and bringing a real world decision making more possible.
Michael, when we spoke earlier this year, you spoke a little about this experience that you had with the avatars in these trainings that you were like as a part of a POC doing this speech training. You had some insights about the avatars that you were using, I think, when you spoke, right? What kind of avatars, what the special facial expressions, how they matter.
Yeah, and I can tell you from our experience, we got many different reactions to these kind of avatars, and I think there is a bit of a battle going on as we see it around whether you want to use an almost real person type avatar and the technology, or you really want to stay with an avatar that people can clearly identify that it's not real, it's an avatar, it's an artificial situation. But we have also seen that some people have very strong reactions to avatars that have not been built probably properly. So we had one situation where one avatar looked a bit creepy, and some people had a very strong emotional reaction to that avatar and immediately switched it off or switched away from it. So I think there is definitely something to that, and I think we should pay real attention to these type of details, which feels to be a bit of a detail to begin with, but when you see how people react to it, it can really adversely impact, I would say, the learning experience and the buy-in.
Yeah, because what we don't want to achieve is that someone spends time just focusing on what is wrong about the avatar, but the learning that, the other things that the person should be focused on, right? Not just focusing on the technology behind it, which is always a challenge.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we had also that feedback that some people were paying more attention to how the avatar moves the lips or blinks with the eyes than really focusing on what the avatar was telling them, which is also defeating the purpose of the whole training, right?
Yeah.
And Enrique, we have evolved out of a stage where we're not just restricted to those 3D or 2D avatars, but we can have humanoids reaction. I mean, something related to the retail example, where you can have those expressions countered in a real scenario, and the scenarios or simulations can be built around it.
Yeah, I mean, really, obviously, transparently speaking, it's still a challenge. Yeah, nowadays, still, what kind of avatars you want to use. It's very subjective. Also, everyone has opinions. Someone prefer just to hear someone speaking and talk to them. But now, when it comes up to the topic of facial expressions, this is a challenge. Yeah, so we can't yet, really define. Okay, the video stream based approach is better than a 3D based approach.
Yeah,
it's, I think, something which will evolve over time, and at the end of the day, we will have a better solution just in a couple of years probably. I mean, obviously the technical aspect evolves very rapidly, but avatars is a topic for itself, as Michael was just mentioning. So it's
sure. And Michael, coming back to you, I mean, with your experience of training, I mean, huge number of professionals, around 6,500 plus professionals across 30-odd countries. How do you see this experience evolving around the immersive training being delivered with clear, measurable improvements, and beyond just, as Enrique was mentioning, beyond this just having a fun and engaging way, but probably meeting some of those measurable outcomes? What's your experience on that?
Yeah, thank you. And probably I can just continue a little bit with the use case Enrique was mentioning in his introduction. So as an insurance company in particular, when you write property risks, you really want to understand what it is what you write. And the quality of the risk often is also defined by how, for instance, a building is built. Is it out of concrete? Is it out of wood? But it's also how the building is protected against, for instance, fire risks. So are there sprinklers installed? Are there smoke detectors? So at Zurich, this is the job of what we call an underwriter. And an underwriter is responsible to assess overall this risk, price the risk, put the terms and conditions in place, and then write or not write the risk into Zurich's books. Now, Zurich is employing up to 900 people with an engineering background. So they're really
Wow.
coming from the engineering industry, from all sorts of industries, which is great to have them with us. The challenge, though, is we were all together writing probably millions of locations. And the challenge we were seeing is that, I mean, how do we send these 900 people to these millions of locations and check on every risk, which is impossible, but is also not necessarily required. Because not all the risks are what we call heavy risks or very complicated or complex risks, right? Some are a bit more kind of standard risks where a warehouse is a warehouse is a warehouse, right?
Right.
So the challenge was that our underwriters oftentimes didn't feel comfortable or confident in, for instance, going on site themselves, looking around, checking on the risk, checking on the protection, having a conversation with the site manager about things that need to be improved. So we ended up sending these 900 colleagues to all these different places again and again and again. And these are very busy people, highly educated, and we oftentimes need them for the more complex risks rather than for the more standard risks, right? So our use case was then centered around how might we use virtual reality to train and upskill our underwriters so they could perform that task all by themselves with confidence, right?
Right.
So that's kind of what we did. We tested it in particular in the US. Our US team was organizing that use case. And I think how we measure impact, well, in the end, what we have seen is that underwriters became more confident and were going to the site themselves rather than sending the engineer. And that was kind of the business case, but at the same time, the proof point that the solution can work.
Well, that's nice to know, because that's an actual behavioral change that we saw where they became more confident to implement some of these challenges. And attaching to the same topic, and Michael, we were discussing this earlier with Enrique and Emmy about the global reach and localization. While localization is one aspect of the global reach, since you are stalwart in terms of implementing training programs globally, what are some of the key lessons you would like to share where making immersive learning work across scale with different cultures, languages, or probably those regulatory environments that many of the organizations have specific to geography? If you want to share some specific insights around the same.
Yeah, sure. And I can stay on the same use case and share a few of our learnings there. So I would probably name 3. One is pretty obvious, but you really have to do it, which is prepare your audience well. And what I mean is, for instance, with the headsets, you cannot just throw these over the fence and ship them around and wish people good luck in using them. I can tell you it's not going to work. You have to start writing user guides. You have to document things. You have to take pictures showing, where to switch them on, how to use them for your particular use case, how to charge them. You really have to go a bit into the nitty-gritty and the details. And our lesson there is a bit, if you don't do that, you become not a help desk, you become a hot desk. So people start calling you for asking you all these questions, because in the end, it's another IT device. And at least in our organization, our IT team didn't feel that they were responsible for it at all, because their domain is computers, not virtual reality goggles. So we ended up becoming the IT help desk. So we quickly learned that you really have to prepare your audience well. Probably one learning. The other one is also pretty obvious, but it happened to us. Keep track of your devices. So we had seen situations where people left the company and we didn't know where the device was, right? So it disappeared. Or some people were giving it to friends, saying that, hey, nice stuff, try it out. So you need to find a way of keeping track of where these devices are. Otherwise, probably they're lost. And I think in general, it's really, I think for us, it was important to challenge our use case. So why are we doing this? Isn't there another way, a simpler way of achieving the same? And I think it's healthy to always step back a little bit and be critical with yourselves, so that you're not getting excited and carried away with the technology. So don't lose sight of the business case and the use case.
Brilliant, Michael. No, I think that really makes a lot of sense in terms of the coverage, in terms of planning, preparing yourself, and preparing the audience. I think that makes a wholesome package because there is, as you said, rightly said, there's a lot of value, and the value is based on the use case, but how we engage the audience, I think that's one of the key things. And Henrique, from your perspective, companies who are aiming to move to these engagement to genuine behavioral challenges or changes, how do you ensure that some of these pitfalls can be avoided? While Michael highlighted on some of the help and the hand-holding that is required, but if there's something like
it's I mean, I agree 1000% with Michael, about, I mean, one of the biggest challenges that you could have, and you have to really focus on that, is onboarding people to VR. Yeah. Like introducing them appropriately to using the solution. It's not like a tool that you just hand over and now do it, and it's obvious to everyone, like you can't look at it that way. Usually, especially, when, it really depends also a little bit on the industry, but especially when it's an audience which is not at all familiar yet with this type of solution, and even, for instance, with a VR headset or something comparable to that. So that's why, I mean, just to, make this pitfall not happen, just to avoid it, we usually suggest to start with smaller groups, pilot groups throughout the organization, to gather first experiences, and really also gather feedback around it. Focus a lot on introducing the people to it, have dedicated people, introducing the learners to the new technology. And in general, I mean, that's the thing that applies to any type of software or hardware, but the ease of use. The software needs to be, or the hardware and software needs to be easy to use. And in general, too much technology can overwhelm people, and they are just focused on how to handle a VR headset, for instance, or another device which could, drive senses. We don't want learners to feel uncomfortable or stressed when they are doing the training. So the good thing is it's evolving. Technology is even, these headsets nowadays are, getting easier to use. Michael, I have shown you one of the newest mixed reality headsets that we have nowadays, or the goggles, actually, the glasses. I gave it to you, you put it on, you did a little tutorial, and you were able already to use it with your hands. So these are signs which we are seeing, and which is positive also, obviously, to design learning experiences. But however, I will always recommend to start in smaller steps, not, with hundreds of headsets or thousands of headsets even.
Makes absolute
That's what I can
sense.
say, yeah.
And to keep our audience engaged, and we hope you're enjoying the session so far. Another question, which you can reply on the chat, something that you've done, one of the trainings that you've implemented or being part of, what's one real world behavior it changed for you? And because we're talking about behavioral impact in the last session, part of the presentation, so if you would like to share some of your thoughts around the same. Moving ahead, which is actually how we can have these solutions lapped up by the organizations. And one of the key things is buy-in within the organization. And I mean, let me start with you, because you, again, implemented this very recently. So any advice for organizations that are new to the solution or trying to think through the solution and sitting on the fence, how they can, what are some of the low barriers or low cost ways to start experimenting this? We spoke about pilot and a few other elements that Henrique and Michael spoke about, but from your experience, something that really opened this up.
Yeah, I think, there's ways that you can experiment with current content that you have, whether that's adding elements, maybe it's interactive video, maybe simple VR. For the ergonomic program that we did, it was an easier sell for me internally, because obviously it was, I could either increase headcount, or I can develop a program that is there when we're not. So that made that a little bit easier. But I think the key really is to focus on creating the meaningful content, not necessarily thinking about like making the technology, fit the solution, or the solution fitting the technology. You really need to give some thought is if it makes sense. I see some of the comments that are in here about, I saw some of the Q&As about, how do I make this fit for my industry? I think it's taking a step back, talking with your stakeholders, and seeing if it can work, and then really experimenting on a very small basis and then pushing it out wider.
I mean, no, that absolutely makes sense. And similarly, Michael, for you, I mean, being part of the insurance team, what really worked for you in terms of getting the buy-in? Was it the business case, or as you spoke about, getting the audience aligned, or any testimonials, or combination of everything that really worked for you in terms of getting the buy-in from the leadership team?
Yeah, probably I can name 2 examples on the virtual reality. What we did is early on, we put the goggles on our CEO's head. So we kind of were carrying the CEO to it and then let the CEO experience it. So I think that was a smart thing to do. And we got immediate reactions and could also understand a little bit whether or not we're on the right track. So that was good. The other thing we recently did with AI role plays, we asked one very senior leader to practice in front of everybody at the town hall.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit there was a bit of quite a risk to that, because you never know where the conversation goes. You never know what the AI avatar is going to say next, and it's hundreds of people, and you're exposing one of your senior leaders to it. But it went well, lucky us. But probably some of these type of techniques involving people early, get them engaged, let them lead by example, but also hearing their initial type of feedback before you go away and start pitching, probably has served us very well. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And you went through the right approach of getting the top engaged so that it trickles down to the entire organization. Henrique, I would want you to talk about while we've spoken about VR headsets and other, but there are obviously other sensory elements like scent and haptics that are being involved. But probably considering the time, if you would like to discuss those while sharing your demos, I think that would add a lot. So probably I can stop.
Let's do that. Yeah. Let me share.
As Semi rightly said, there are a lot of nice comments and there's a lot of connect here. And I think some of the demos that Henrique is going to walk you through, I know we have limited time, but that is also going to resonate to some of the use cases that we've already spoken about.
Mm-hmm. So some of these use cases, they obviously depend on hardware as well, as we have been speaking about it. But just to quickly respond to the question about how to start investing, I definitely think that you should start slow. Yeah, the goal is not, let's purchase a bunch of headsets and bunch of hardware and let's try to make a training out of it just because it's immersive. I think you have to start like Amy and we are starting together to this journey with a 360-degree environment for a web browser solution. And once you recognize, the results and you see how people are interacting with it, you get to the next step, even, with these types of more evolving technologies around senses. Yeah. So that's, just to shortly answer the question, some demos that we have here for today to show is the first one here around immersive VR for a VR headset and spatial audio. It's actually a use case in where the learners, that was for one of our customers from the Swiss Army, gets to recognize a drone attack with spatial audio. And we designed this, with these types of new technologies and to be able to reproduce it in a VR headset. Let me just show the video for you just to see how it feels from a VR perspective.
Wie schnell können Sie in der virtuellen Umgebung eine feindliche Drohne entdecken? Sind Sie sogar schneller als die Sensoren zur Drohnendetektion?
So it's about the recognition of a
Sind Sie
drone.
bereit, die Drohne ausfindig zu
When you are
machen?
ready,
Finden Sie heraus,
you
wie
need
lange
to
Sie dazu benötigen. Viel Erfolg!
basically find out where it comes from based on the audio that you are hearing, but also on the visuals that we have. So it's really 3D from a certain perspective. You don't see it coming, and then once you see it, and you hear it coming from that specific direction, you select it and you get a response. So it's actually really about triggering the sense of audio. Yeah, we had the first poll at the beginning, speaking about the sirens that are, in a maintenance environment, the sirens that are, coming up, and you need, it's important for you to listen to it before you react. So it's something that you really can design fairly quickly nowadays. While it's playing here at the end, let me just show you the device that we use to
Wie
design
lange
it. So it's
benötigen Sie für
like
dieses Szenario?
basically a 3D audio microphone, which you can place anywhere and record the audio, and you can place it within a VR simulation like we did for Amy and for Michael, and play the audio accordingly. So depending on where you are looking at, or even in the web browser, you are able to listen to the specific sounds that are coming from each direction. So it's like what we have as for a 360-degree camera, we have for an audio device. So it's I think there was a question around hardware. I think, for instance, the investment that you have to do for this type of device is $250 in America, and you can really recreate a certain situation, obviously investing time in developing it. The next example, also like the hardware example that we have here with the devices that simulate certain situations, is the fire extinguisher. I think someone in the chat mentioned it as well, that it was quite a memorable experience. While I'm working on the device here with the headset on, it's all synchronized, with the VR scenario, and you really get to feel the heat, feel the smell, smell the situation, the molten rubber and the fire that is blasting, with the devices that we have here in this setup. And obviously now I have to act accordingly and remove the fire, extinguish it. And from a hardware perspective, what we see here is this device, the heater, is blasting heat into my direction. We have the other device next to it, which is simulating the smell of the molten rubber and general situation. And obviously also the fire extinguisher, the main element, which is really synchronized with the VR experience that I'm seeing on the VR headset. And it's a very important aspect of solutions like this. Obviously here a little bit more hardware heavy, but the synchronization between the real device, the haptics device, or the smell, the heat, and what you are actually doing in the environment. And it's very like let's say, a situation which is hard to replicate in a document or in an animated video that you just watch. Now always when I walk, pass by a fire extinguisher, I remember the training. So it's nice, easy to visualize experience, and applicable obviously to other dangerous situations as well. I mentioned this device here, this stationary smell device, which was triggering everything around me, when it comes to the smells that I was experiencing. With the evolving technology, we also have other options to simulate this. So I have this device here with me, which is like a mobile smell simulator, which I can put around my neck. And it's just an alternative solution to the one we just saw. It has cartridges in it. So it's actually possible to simulate any type of smell right through the trigger that we set in the program. So you can use it really to, fire exercises or leaking gas, situations around maintenance where a machine might be heating. The good thing about this device compared to the one that we just saw in the video is that the smell gets triggered right under your nose, basically. So you have immediate feedback based on what you are triggering in the training. And it's via Bluetooth connected either to your VR headset or to your laptop. So you can have an app on your actual laptop or tablet as well, and you trigger the device while you are experiencing it. I had a question, I think, in the chat before around what's the sense which triggers memory the most, and also emotions. And based on studies that we did and research that we have done before investing in this type of technology, is that smell is a very strong trigger of these things. So always when you remember a smell of something, it really relates you back to that situation. So this is why we have been working with these types of devices. This is actually still a prototype that we have in-house, and we are currently developing this to be utilized for various types of trainings. So again, not only applicable to VR headset situations, can also be done together with your usual laptop or tablet. And Amy and Michael, feel free to jump in and ask anything or comment on any type of demo that we are doing right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, just going back to like, the fire safety and the danger situations. The thing is, when you're picking up that fire extinguisher, when you're doing it in a safe environment, it's very easy to recall. It's when you have the pressure of the situation, the loud noise, the smell, it's very hard to recall. So the only way you can do it and effectively realize how you might react is when you're in that situation. So, I think the application is astounding.
Yeah, because in that actual demo, in that actual use case that I was conducting, you also had a situation where you did it wrongly. Yeah, you used the wrong fire extinguisher for the wrong type of substance, and then everything blew up around me. So yeah, and then you change the device, or with it, then you read it actually, and then you do it properly. Yeah.
Enrique,
one situation, yeah.
Just a time check, 4 minutes to go. So if you want, quickly skim through the last two.
Yeah, let me just quickly showcase this one here. Yeah, the redirected walking situation that I have briefly spoken about, in which you are able to
space management.
In which you are able to walk through an actual larger digital space compared to where you are actually located right now. We see at the bottom left corner the actual space the person is walking through, and at the top, at the main screen, the virtual space. And I just let him explain how this is done. And this is a very nice thing, which is nowadays possible with the VR headsets that we have.
For VR users to maintain their natural walking ability for locomotion. So this works because we allow the user to reuse their physical play space in an automated, seamless, and efficient way. So when the user is out of space, the system will lock their field of view to their intended path and will guide them to turn so that they have the most amount of physical play space in front of them.
So while he's walking through this digital space, it triggers automatically the direction he's walking to, and then he turns around and keeps walking in the digital space where he wants to walk to. And we see that this is much more evolving and much more involving, when you are really moving through the space with these standalone headsets that we have nowadays with the sensors that are built in. And you don't have to actually use a joystick or any other type of controller that, doesn't feel so real. So really what we see when someone's actually moving through a space, that makes it also obviously also moving body awareness much more, memorable when it comes to the experience. So this is also technology that we are using nowadays for the projects that we are developing. Ease of use. Yeah. The last demo, for today at least, is a more type of mixed reality experience that we have. This is for one of the newest mixed reality glasses that we have in the market, which are much more lightweight. The one actually that I'm using right now, and you are the ease of use. Again, the keyword ease of use. You are able to use your hands while you are performing a task. It's blended over the actual physical parts of what you are working on, and based on the 3D objects which are placed over the it can be a device, it can be anything. This one is just an emblematic example, obviously showcasing how to build a paper plane step by step. And which is, with this mixed reality headset, when we speak about haptics, actually doing something, and in the real world, we say really, learning by doing. is, I think one of the most important aspects about it. This can be really, applied to any type of situation, basically. You can really simulate the steps in front of you, and with the free hands that you have, do the actual task that you should be doing. It's compared to previous devices like we had, one very, very well-known one, the Microsoft HoloLens, much less bulky, much easier to use. I gave Michael the device, and he just basically turned it on and used it. And we were speaking about object recognition with AI services that are provided in real time. And this is all displayed in the space, and can be applied to any type of device, as I was mentioning previously. And we had actually, the opportunity to work together with the Swiss Army with this type of mixed reality headset when it comes to the correct operation of a NBC reconnaissance vehicle, nuclear biochemical weapons vehicle, in which you got really guided step by step on how to exchange the filter, how to maintain the actual vehicle, which was really basically using the same approach that we see here with the paper plane, just in a more serious environment, all in real time, which is just also to end the session today with the newest mixed reality headset that we have on the in the market, actually.
Well, thanks, Dan.
So thank you.
Unfortunately, we are short of time. We would love to walk you through more, and probably will answer your questions post the session. But thank you once again, and Liz, over to you. I mean, it's a great session, and Michael, Hemi, Henrique, thanks a ton for sharing your insights. Really wonderful.
Yes. No, I was about to say, you guys have a lot of follow-ups to do. So yes, anybody who's like, no, my question didn't get answered, no worries. The team will get all of your questions and we'll be reaching out to you with those answers. But thank you so much. This was a very interactive session. The comments and the questions were blowing up as expected. So thank you so much for just being an amazing panelist and walking us through that. Is there anything else though you would like to say before we say our goodbyes, and other wrap-up items?
No, I would just like to say thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for everyone who could join us. Great questions and comments. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to it, but it's a learning and evolving journey. As Emmy, Michael, Henrique threw some light. It's an evolving industry, but there are some real use cases which are adding a lot of business and learning outcomes. But Emmy, Michael, you want to share some thoughts?
I think I would just circle back to try to enter gently into it. If if you don't have the budget, I think it's worth it. I think it's the wave of the future. So when you can, do it.
Cool. Beautiful. Well, with that, thank you so much, everybody. For everyone who else is still on the call, though, I do want to invite you for some more events. We have one more in the month of August, our Leader Talk tomorrow. So I hope to see you all there. If not, we have some really great ones coming into September. So you can sign up for these now and watch past ones now at trainingindustry.com. And all of our webinars are pre-qualified for a credit hour by HRCI, SHRM, ISPI, and CPTM. So send an email to me or anybody on the TI team, and we will send you those codes. If you're like, what is CPTM, Liz? It is the Certified Professional and Training Management Program that assists you in developing core competencies that will empower you to manage the future training needs of your organization. So you can find more at trainingindustry.com/training. And I'd love to see you in Milwaukee this fall for the 2025 Training Industry Strategy Summit. Collaborate with peers, industry experts, and thought leaders as you build, refine, and future-proof your organizational learning strategies. I might be a tad biased, but this is more than a conference. It is a working session for learning leaders who want to align learning with business outcomes. So I would love to see you all there. Lastly, that evaluation survey should have popped open in another tab in your browser, and we'd appreciate hearing your thoughts on today's session. Again, thank you to our amazing panelists today and our sponsor, EI. But lastly, thank you all for your time and attention today. I hope to see you next time. Otherwise, have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and I will see you all soon. Bye, everybody.